needed some orientation for them. They identified that our new providers didn't have any type of orientation, and at the time we had high provider turnover.
So we looked into different orientations for providers, and the realization is there are none.
It's very different from wherever in the private sector you have come from.
It's a culture shock. It's very different from the private sector.
They're new here, and it's a lot of information at first.
So as nurse educators, we looked into our evidence-based nursing strategies. What do we know that works to help us retain our nurses? And we just integrated it into a provider program as well.
All of the VA providers that have gone through new provider orientation have been have a very positive feedback with our presentation.
They did a really great job of showing me what it was like for overall long-term development and retention.
So when I was the Associate Chief of Staff for Primary Care, and it was both Amarillo and Lubbock, we had actually 10 positions. So we hired 10 primary care providers. I'm Dr. Wootring Norman. I started at the VA as a primary care PACT provider. And at that point in time, it was clear that we needed some orientation for them, right? They go to the new employee orientation, but that is not the same as actually, like, how do we actually practice medicine here in the VA?
The very first thing our providers usually say about the VA is it's a culture shock. It's very different from the private sector. My name is Dr. Priscilla Gann. I'm a nurse educator at the Amarillo VA. I am the program director for the new provider orientation program. So when we started to talk to our providers, we found that as a VA, we were doing a good job onboarding them and getting them connected, but not necessarily supporting them with everything that we could. We could do better.
I was doing private practice all my life, and it has been a big change for me coming to the VA from private. Dr. Thomas Joseph. I have been an orthopedic surgeon for the last 25 to 30 years. And 2 years ago, I joined VA in Amarillo.
Here in Amarillo, we're not exactly a booming metropolis. We're located in the central part of the Panhandle. But we are a strong community with good people, and our veterans deserve the best care possible. So, with us being a small community, our providers are so much more important. Recruitment can be a whole other game in its own, but we need to retain those great providers. When we're able to get those skilled clinicians that are going to do amazing care for our veterans, we need to do everything we can to support them and keep them.
I waited till my 40s to start breaking bones, and I did a pretty good job of it. I had a tib-fib fracture, or fractures, and Dr. Joseph performed my surgery. My name is Patrick Hutchison. I'm a veteran patient here at the Amarillo VA. I was concerned about having multiple surgeries because of the extent of the fractures, and when I expressed that to Dr. Joseph, he said, it's ultimately about what you want. There was a way to perform the surgery with what they call a tightrope system that he made sure happened. As I was in physical therapy, I was in the waiting room waiting for my therapist, and I was talking to another vet as he wheeled in with a knee scooter and a boot, and he told me that he was also pretty hesitant to have surgery done at the VA, but had his surgery done by Dr. Joseph and couldn't be happier with the results.
They are very nice patients, and they are very appreciative of what you do. That is really something which I like. And at this time of my career, that is very important, and that is a big thing for me.
The VA is a different sort of care in terms of it's a managed care. It's also treating veterans, and veterans have very specific and different needs than the general population.
The biggest thing was, coming into an organization that is completely different than anything in the private sector, and the way they made me feel comfortable and really laid out their expectations of us here at the VA, our roles and our responsibilities from the get-go, from the beginning. Coming into it, I knew what my expectation was here, and they really provided me with the tools that I needed to give great care and kind of what I should expect, down the road. And when I come into issues or troubles, who I can reach out to and who I can, get help from. My name is Brandy Dempsey, and I'm a certified family nurse practitioner. So I think here we have a really unique program and organization where we have a connection with, for me, I'm in primary care. And so I have this unique ability to reach out to different specialties that my patients are a part of, or that, the providers that they are seeing there. That's what makes our care here so unique, is that coordination of care for the veterans. We're able to reach out to different organizations and providers throughout the VA to really make sure that their care is coordinated and taken care of. You don't get that in the private sector.
So providers that come from a non-VA sector are used to prescribing medications for labeled uses as well as non-off-labeled uses. Our formulary here helps veterans get continuous care across all VAs or non-VA when they choose something from our formulary, but they are always able to choose non-formulary medications when what they want is not available. Hello, my name is Jessica Alexander. I'm a clinical staff pharmacist here at the VA for about 4 years, but I've been a pharmacist for 24 years. The VA operates off of a formulary to give safe, effective, and efficient care for our veterans. This process is done by a formulary process. Providers are able to look at our formulary and choose medications off of that formulary. And of course, they're also able to prescribe non-formulary medications when something is not effective for our veterans.
We are managed care, and so talking about the way we can get our veterans all of the services that they can get, which is a great thing about the VA. You need to know that as a provider coming in, you wouldn't necessarily know.
So we realized that there was a need to connect them to points of contacts, to services, to people that could help them get tools and training and just resources to help them be more successful, more efficient, and keep them here in the VA.
But it wasn't until the SPEAR team that we could figure out the specifics of that, the how much person power was going to take, how much time, what was needed, those kind of specific things to get the program up and running.
Hello, everyone. My name is Frances Rice, Bureau Coordinator with the Vision 17 MCA team, and today I'll be taking you through VERA New Provider Orientation, which will provide you with foundational information and perspectives that you'll need to truly start to understand our unique business model, the Veterans Equitable Resource Allocation, or VERA. Federally funded healthcare operates in a completely different way than the private sector.
Just to make it brief, I'm just going to deliver the ABCs of access and productivity. We have access to care, workability, and clinical utilization.
I'm the coding supervisor. And I also have Tangela Matava here with me, and we're going to present over coding and clinical documentation. Go ahead.
Paul Yarbrough, the Chief of Prosthetics. Some of you guys who don't know me, So and I'm here today to kind of bring you guys up to speed about what we offer through prosthetics.
Okay, so my name's Mariela. I'm with credentialing. And so for the first slide, we just kind of explain what credentialing and privileging is. And the difference, credentialing is primary source verification used to verify your identity, education, and professional credentials. Privileging is process in which provider is granted the ability to practice within their scope at this facility.
We've had a lot of physicians that have transferred from other VA facilities, and they tell us, wow, I wish I would have had this at the other VA, or this information would have been so nice, to have coming on to the VA. I'm Cheryl Warren. I am a registered nurse educator. I'm also the new provider orientation coordinator.
For me, the provider orientation here was very different. It was not just your typical onboarding process. I felt like it was an immersion into this unique, federally structured healthcare system.
All this helped me to get into the system quicker and easier without much difficulty. I think, and I can say that this orientation is very useful for all the new people coming to the VA.
He reached out to me and I helped him at the mannequin with the compressions and the breaths, and then he was fine doing it on his own. He just needed somebody to show him how to work the computer and the mannequins because he wasn't used to doing that.
It's not just a one and done. It's not just we're going to see you on day one and be done with you. No, we have an amazing education department that will follow up and make sure that, do you have questions now, right? Because when you come onto any new job, you're overwhelmed with the amount of information, and having somebody check in on you and say, hey, we gave you a lot of information. Is there something more we can do for you? And just knowing that there's the whole system is here, ready to help the providers, help the veterans, is really critical.
I always reach out to them after we have new provider orientation, and I set up orientation check-ins with them. So I always follow up with them after we have new provider orientation, just to see how they're doing, ask them if they have any questions. What I've found is that they don't always know the questions to ask when they're in orientation because they're new here. And it's a lot of information at first, but just doing that follow-up in a few weeks to a month after they complete orientation, they'll usually have something that they want to ask, or if they're experiencing any barriers, I just try to help them navigate the systems, get them in touch with a point of contact, somebody who can help them, provide different resources and tools, just things that they need to be successful so they can care for the veterans here.
All of the VA providers that have gone through new provider orientation have been have a very positive feedback with our presentation. We give them a lot of resources to be very helpful with their acclimation into the VA process.
They really appreciated, they felt valued, they felt wanted, they felt supported. Us as an organization, we gave them the tools and resources that they needed to be successful. And if they at least had a point of contact to know who they could reach out to if they needed help.
How's it been treating veterans?
Amazing. Amazing. I think as providers, our biggest goal is to be a patient advocate and to really, be there for our patients and be that resounding voice of reason and help, when they need it. And the VA really gives you the opportunity to do that. And they give you the tools that you need to provide that type of care. And so, I think what's unique about our veterans is they've given so much for our country. And for us, it's our turn to give that same care and consideration to them and give them the best care that they deserve.